Hello. It's 8 o'clock in the evening on the fourth Friday of the month. And it's my intention to run a series of monthly lives here on my page, Organic Education, through 2021 on the fourth Fridays of each month. So very much hoping a few of you might join me here live, but if you don't, it's here for you to watch on replay, and hopefully it'll give you some encouragement in these challenging times. So do comment, let me know if you're watching. It'd be good to know who's here with me. If you click above this live on the StreamYard link, then that will mean I can see your name if you're commenting, and I'll know who you are. I see Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I'm hoping you can see me and hear me. Good to see you there. Yeah, let me know if it's you on StreamYard, because otherwise it just comes up as Facebook user, which is a bit more impersonal. So that would be great. Oh, I can see a few more people joining. Lovely. So yeah, my intention here is to have these lives for guests, goodness, and a chance to bring your questions and your struggles around organic education, learning outside of school. Hi, Lois. Super. Great that you could join us. Oh, I can see quite a few people are joining us now, so that's brilliant. Yeah, so do use the chat to encourage one another, as well as to ask me questions if you want to. Let's keep it really positive, guys. We all need some encouragement, don't we? Some positivity in these difficult days. Especially, I think, if you're a home educator, we just so miss meeting up face to face and being able to give each other the usual encouragement that we do, and just having those chats that help us to get through the days. So yeah, hopefully this will be a bit of a space for that. And you're really welcome here, whether your children are usually educated in school or out. You're welcome. And I hope you'll find some inspiration and encouragement here from my own journey of educating my children without school for many years now. So my name's Alice Kimasia. Some of you know me, some of you might not, but it's good that you can actually see my face if you're a follower on this page. So I'm married to Krish, who has been a secondary school maths teacher for over 20 years. And we have 4 boys who've we've pretty much autonomously home educated for most of their school careers. The younger 2 have never been to school. Hi, Claire. Great to see you there. So our eldest son, Elias, is nearly 20. He'll be 20 this year. And Joe is nearly 18. And then we've got Noah, who's nearly 15. And then little Zephan, who is 8. So a range of ages, and quite a lot of experience on this unschooling journey. In 2016, I gave a TED talk, and they called it Unschooling. You can find it on YouTube, or you can click through from this page, Organic Education, if you've not watched it. And unschooling is a term that I didn't know when I took my boys out of school. Well, from the British school system, which was now 11 years ago. It's not really a term I like, because it's a kind of negative term, right? Unschooling. It's like defining what we do by what it's not. So I kind of like to put a more positive spin on it than that word implies. So I've always talked about autonomous, self-directed learning. I called the blog I wrote for many years, and now this page, Organic Education, because when I set out on this journey, that's really what I was looking for, that kind of organic, emergent experience. And as I was thinking about how to define the way that I approach education, for this series of talks this year, I thought a lot about trust, because really I think it comes down to trust. And you might be watching thinking, well, trust, what does trust have to do with education? And so that I thought for our first Fourth Friday, we would look at trust. Oh, I can see a good number of you there now. Thank you for saying hello. It's just nice to know who's out there. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Bethany. Hi, Fadzai. Brilliant. Yeah, so trust. John Holt, who was a bit of a pioneer in the unschooling movement, if you've been a home educator or an unschooler for any length of time, you probably have heard of John Holt. He was a bit of a pioneer. And he said this, he said, trust children. Nothing could be more simple or more difficult. Difficult because to trust children, we must first learn to trust ourselves. And most of us were taught as children that we could not be trusted. I think that's a really powerful quote, and I often return to it. I don't know if that's meaningful to you or if it resonates with you in any way, but it certainly does for me, because I don't think we live in a cultural society which trusts children or trusts parents. And that kind of came to light for me during the pandemic back in September when they were opening schools. And I know that some parents were so ready for schools to reopen and were really keen to get their kids back. And I know too that there were parents who needed the schools open and who need that provision for their children. But I also know that there were parents who didn't really want to send their kids back. There was quite a lot of pressure from government, and even sort of fines threatened and things for not sending your children in. And it struck me then that we don't really have a trust in parents and in families to make the right decision for their family, for their children. And I just had this strong feeling at that point that school really ought to be optional. They ought to have just made it optional for people. So it's there as an option if you want to utilize it, but there isn't the pressure that you have to. And school is not compulsory in the UK. Education is, but school is not. So the way that you provide that education within the law doesn't necessarily have to involve school. And I know that that is a revelation for some parents, that there are still parents who don't know that. I think through the pandemic, people have become much more aware of it. And of course, many of us are being forced to engage in some kind of pandemic schooling. And I'm quite keen to differentiate that experience too from the experience of free range education, which I have enjoyed with my children over these years. So if that's you tonight and you're needing a little bit of inspiration as to how you might tackle homeschooling differently, then I hope you hear something, interesting and inspiring tonight. Yeah, but it's true that school is not the best learning environment for all children. I've known that always, because my schooling, although it wasn't bad, it wasn't. I struggled with it in many ways, especially as a young child. And I feel like in many ways, we're conditioned somehow to play small and to keep our heads down. And I know that for me, there's a certain amount of shame that lingers from that time, because I was always afraid to draw attention to myself or to put my hand up and get the answer wrong or to stand out from the crowd. And, some of that damage can linger into adulthood. I was quite a high achiever, but I was a bit of a fragile perfect in that I wanted those kind of top grades, and that would lead to some anxiety. So, although it was okay, I could say, well, I got on okay at school. With reflection, there are things that I carry that were, that are things that come from that time of my life. I started out, when I started school, I was selectively mute for the first 3 years. So it's a big thing for me to be here on a Facebook Live. It's really good. And as I got a bit older, I did refuse school. I was a school refuser. So I understand, that for some children, school is very anxiety inducing. It can be They can be in sensory overload. It can just be a bit too much. And a lot of the time I was quite bored. I just thought it was a bit of a waste of time. And there were lots of things at home that I would much rather have been putting my time and energy into. So I just felt like it got in the way. School got in the way a bit of the learning that I would much rather have been engaged in. And I think it also makes us not trust the things that are important to us because other things are deemed to be more important. And I think that comes down as well to even things like having to condition ourselves to go to the toilet at the correct time at school and things like that. You know, we're not even trusting our own bodies and responding to our own bodily signals, which is a kind of fundamental trust that we have in our own selves. So I don't know if you felt like schooling got in the way of your education. I'm sure some of you had more positive experience than others. What did you love to do when you were a kid? Like, what did you love to do outside of school? What were your passions? I know mine included music and animals and being outside and writing. Lots of things. We have lots of different passions and interests, which are not always the things that we're pursuing in school. I can see a lovely long comment there by Lois. I've got to get used to this, reading the comments as well as talking. I'll try and come to that, Lois. Yeah, so it's good to think back sometimes and to think what our own sort of passions and interests were, or what interests we've had over the years, things that perhaps fell by the wayside. I used to love languages. That was another passion of mine. See, Laura's put some in there: reading, writing, art, nature. I didn't have time for them. Yeah, I didn't have time, right? Because we're always so busy with all the organized things that we're meant to be doing, our homework and so on. So yeah, I always had this sense that school was perhaps not the best learning environment for all children. And it was memories of my own school experience that later, when I became a parent, kind of enabled me to trust this feeling in my gut I had about deregistering my own sons from school. And what prompted that was seeing the light go out in my son's eyes. It was very noticeable. He went from being very chatty little boy, always asking questions, very curious, quite dynamic, to becoming very downcast. His eyes were low. He didn't want to look anyone in the eye. And he stopped asking questions and chattering. He just seemed to shut down. And it was like the light went out. And I thought, something's not right. And the school thought, you know, he's okay, everything's fine. And I just had this like gut feeling that things were not right. And as I looked around, I thought, well, just changing the school isn't really going to help, because it seemed to be the system, which was quite limited. He just didn't seem to be thriving. And so I kind of knew in my gut that I needed to take action as his mum, that I needed to advocate for him. And as I spoke to the school, I realized no one else was going to do that. No one else could quite see it the way that we could see it at home. And I guess too, like some of my own traumatic memories from school, and I know everybody has them, because you speak to people about school and they'll all come out with these negative experiences that they had. I just thought, can we not envisage something better? And I still think that. I think especially at this time, collectively, when all our systems have kind of been turned upside down, can we not envisage a better way? It seems like such a moment. I can see my friend Songul there. Hey, she's in Turkey. You can see me, but you can't understand what I'm saying. It's nice to see you, Sungal. So yeah, is this the moment? Is this the moment when we envisage something better? Here's Claire. I've always been creative, but it wasn't until after school that I actually felt I had the freedom to really explore my own ideas. Yeah. We put our trust in a lot of things, don't we? We put our trust in governments and teachers, and doctors and vaccines. Can we trust ourselves, and can we trust our children? Can we trust that we have what we need within us to be enough, to be their educators? You know, we're our children's primary educators. You think of those first few years when they just grow and develop so much. And I guess in a way for me, this organic education has just continued that as they've grown up. It's not complicated. It's not something difficult, but it does involve a level of trust. And I took my boys out of school. Elias was 7. Joe's a year younger than him. He was a school year under him, so he was probably 5 at the time. And Noah was 3, so he hadn't yet made it into the school system, though he was in nursery. And I took them out at that point because I had a vision. I had a vision for education, and it was a brighter vision. And it was a vision where their lights would be on. Some of you know that I've been working this year with Lights On, which is an educational framework. And you might have been tuning into some of Julia Black's lives, which are also very inspiring and help present this Lights On framework that she's built over the years. And that, you know, that very much aligns with my vision for education, because Elias's lights had gone out and I just wanted to see him lit up and enjoying his learning and being fueled by those questions that he was full of and all that curiosity. Yeah, that's right. It's just a natural continuation of their development. Hi, Holly. Good to see you here as well. Yeah, so there was this vision that I had for our family, and it was kind of exciting, and it felt quite radical at the time. This was even before social media and all the connections that we can build there online now. It did feel like quite a radical leap off the bandwagon into this alternative space, this different way of doing things. And yeah, as we went along on this kind of new adventure as a family, it became a much bigger journey, bigger than an organic education. It became this much bigger journey of trust. It became about exploring belonging, identity, of kind of breaking out of the narrative that we've been given, about rediscovering our roots and our histories and what is important to us and the stories that matter to us. We'd lived abroad for some years when our older boys were quite small. We lived in Turkey for 3.5 years. And I think that experience too, that family adventure that we'd taken previously, perhaps helped me to see things differently and to come back into our system and look at it a little bit objectively, like from the outside. So the boys were late going into our school system here in the UK. And I wanted to bridge that as well, like the experiences that we'd had living cross-culturally, to bring that into the boys' ongoing educational journey, to reflect on those shared experiences that we'd had. And, you know, all families have those stories and those histories, those roots and those identities. And so often they're left at the school gate. And so that too, that became an important part of our family's journey. And I realized that my children were going to lead this. And it was about allowing them to do that, allowing the boys to lead. And my eldest son, Elias, honestly fought me. He fought me for the right to learn in the way that he wanted to learn and in the way that he knew he needed to learn. And by doing that, he helped me to relax my own need to control things. And that for me was a major part of my own learning journey, was to relax my need for control, and to learn to trust and to go with the flow much more. And Elias learns by asking questions and by discussing ideas. And I learned that working with him over the years. But in school, in the classroom, what that meant was that his primary means of learning was essentially being shut down unintentionally, right? Because there's 30 children in the classroom, and that means that there's certain ways that people have to behave. Elias, sit down. Elias, be quiet. And I realized what a significant thing that was for him. And I think that's why the lights had gone out. That he just wasn't able to explore the ideas and the world in the way that he needed to in order to learn. Which is why I say school's not the best learning environment for all children, right? So yeah, he's a real talker. And another issue we had was writing, because writing had become such a negative experience for him, and he just hated it. He told me, I hate writing, which to me was so sad because I love writing, and that just seemed wrong. But I think what he would say to me is, Mum, either I can write enough for the teacher, but it's not neat enough, or I write it as neat as I can, but it's not long enough. And either way, he would lose his playtime. And so that had become a very negative thing. So when we took them out, this was another exercise in trust, right? Is I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to battle him and make this a thing that he's going to hate and resent even more. And I thought to myself, well, look at computer technology. In 10 years, 11 years, when he leaves school, we'll be talking to computers and they'll be writing down what we're saying. Of course, we have that technology now, right? But somehow I trusted this instinct I had that wasn't the most important thing. And we just focused on oral work. We used to read together, we did loads of stories, and he used to do lots of kind of storytelling, and we would record it on a little MP3 player. He would do loads of drawings and pictures. All the boys have done this. Sometimes I would scribe for him, or as he got a bit older, he much preferred to type. And it was very, very relaxed and very little that was formal about it. Really, he had all of them did. I don't know, I'm talking about him specifically, but all the boys had a very play-based education, and really very informal. And play is the work of a child, right? Play is the way that children explore and make sense of the world. And we express our human creativity through play. We solve problems through play. And actually, we play all the time. If you think about it, like if you think about the last time that you played, you were just playing with something, you were probably learning. I was playing around recently with iMovie, which the boys they laugh at me because I'm not nearly as good at it as they are. They're so fast at editing. But I was playing with it and enjoying it and learning. So I don't know whether you can think about the last time that you played, or you were learning something and it was just by experimenting and play. I know like companies like Google really encourage this, don't they? And if you're familiar with the work of Peter Gray, he talks a lot about the importance of humans playing to develop creativity and creative problem solving. So yeah, share that if you can, if you've got an example of when you were playing and learning through play. Because we're constantly learning, right? It's what we do as humans. We come into the world wired to learn, and we are kind of programmed to do it. We do it. Children are, think about your little baby and toddler and the way that they learned to talk and walk and how natural that process was. Like, we want to make sense of our culture and our environment. So learning is something actually that's very natural. I've been trying to learn some new things in lockdown. I'm trying to give myself challenges to help myself to, not become too depressed. So I wonder too, that's another thing perhaps to put in the comments, like if you've been giving yourself any lockdown challenges for mental well-being. But these can be great things to explore with our children and see what challenges you can come up with, perhaps corporately as a family, or things that you're doing, things that they're doing, you can talk about. One of mine is learning Welsh using Duolingo. That's quite fun. And another of mine is learning, I'm desperate to learn the different bird songs so that I know when I hear, I can just go, oh yes, there's the blackbird and there's the rook. I've wanted to do that forever, and I'm really, really bad at remembering. So I've been trying to use a YouTuber named Lucy Lapwing, if you follow her, to learn the different bird songs. So that's going steadily. Oh, brilliant. Lots of you are commenting there. Yes, things that you're playing with and learning. Yes, exactly, Holly. That's right. Yeah. Just last week, my Noah wanted to do stop motion. So we spent the morning playing with it together. I had no clue how, and it was fun working it out together. Yeah, and I love that on this kind of learning adventure that we go along with our children. We don't have to know, right? We don't have to be ahead and feel like we've got to have all the answers, but we are learning together. We're working it out together, and it's fun. And I think it's very empowering for children to have that sense that you are a fellow learner with them, and you're exploring the world together. And they have things that they're like far better at than I am, and that too is great, right? Because then they can share their knowledge with you, and I think that's good for their sense of self-esteem. So that's another good question to ask, is, especially regarding technology, because they're such digital natives, is for them to teach you something. I don't know, even something they're doing on Minecraft or something. And that's when I'm really out of my comfort zone, because I'm not very good at even seeing the Minecraft world with all the pixels. So yeah, what could they teach you? What could they teach you? One of my other challenges is to run around the block every day, almost every day. It's about 1.2 kilometers, my son tells me. But Noah, who's my fitness boy, has been motivating me to get out and run. Which, if you know me at all, you will understand is a challenge. And we've been doing that. So he's become my kind of fitness coach, and he's very disciplined, is Noah. He's run pretty much every day through lockdowns, missing his tennis club. But yeah, that's been a real challenge. I'm getting better. I'm shamefully unfit. But I was thinking about that today. I did the run round the block, and it was a little bit easier. I think it was about day 8. And I kind of said to Noah, do you know what, Noah, when I started, I was hoping that in a week, I would be finding this much easier. The week's gone by and it is very slightly easier, but it's still really hard. And I thought to myself, you know what, this is maybe going to take 3 months, not a week, of doing this every day before I'm really feeling like, yeah, I can do this. And Noah's hoping to up my distance, which will be interesting. But it made me think about the process as well of unschooling and the way that we need time. All right, because, my son is 20, and I do feel as if his whole life has been this learning journey for me. And it takes time to unlearn the ways that we think learning needs to look. It's a process for us as the parent of letting go of expectations, and it takes time, right? So we think we want it in a week, but actually it's going to be months. And it's the same, you're some way along this journey. Maybe you're just starting out at exploring a different way of educating your children. So be easy with yourselves, right? Because things take time. And I know we live in a culture where everything is very immediate. We want immediate gratification. But these things, it's a journey, it's a process. It takes time. So yeah, give yourselves that grace. Hey, Liz. Liz says, playing Among Us with my kids and another family and being amazed and humbled with how adept kids are. Yeah, I tried Among Us recently. The boys are amazing at it. And that's a great game, actually, isn't it? To play collaboratively. Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, it takes time. And I was thinking too about the way that, I know lots of people at the moment who are doing distance school, and their kids are, I think particularly with this lockdown, the schools seem to be much more expectant that kids are going to log in and sit through the particular lessons. And there's a lot of kind of sitting and passive learning. And I was just thinking about the way that can kill motivation, because children are being expected to do particular tasks and then to submit them. And I don't know if you've come across the work of Carol Black. She's one of my unschooling heroes. If you Google her website, she's just got these fantastic essays on there. One of them is called The Wildness of Children. But she's got one on there called The Evaluative Gaze. And she talks about how she was given a school assignment, and she started out writing the assignment about something she was genuinely really interested and passionate about. I think it was horses. I'm trying to remember. And she wrote it, and then she held back from submitting it. She didn't want to submit it. And then she realized that was because she was afraid of giving something that she loved so much over to somebody's evaluation. She didn't want somebody to grade that and say whether it was good enough. And it's an interesting thing to think about, that the evaluative gaze and the way that it can kind of steal from us things that we love or things that we're passionate about. I think she says it's actually, I'm going to let you go and read the essay. She'll say it much better than I will. She ended up writing the essay about something that was much less important to her, and she thought, yeah, they can have that. They can have that. But we can kill the passion, right, when things need to be submitted, or we're doing something for a grade. It changes it. And anyone who's followed me for a while knows that I'm really not a fan of standardized testing in any form, including GCSEs in recent years have cast a shadow over our household, and the boys have, they wanted to do them, and we've tackled them in different ways. But I hate standardized testing because children are not standardized, and we have such a standardized system at the moment, such a standardized curriculum. This kind of one size fits all. And it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. My Noah, he'll be 15 this month, and he decided he wanted to tackle some GCSEs. He's doing them independently from home, and he just sat the first one in the summer in the midst of all the COVID chaos. He was supposed to sit it in the summer, and then it had to be postponed to the autumn. And he really applied himself, and he took this exam. It was the first test he'd ever sat. First test he'd ever sat at 15. And he passed. So that was it. He was pleased. But why? Why do we so need to measure our children, even, from being really quite small? I think teachers are perfectly capable of assessing where a child is at without this constant need to put them through these standardized testing. So it's nice actually in our alternative home education to jump through those standardized hoops all the time. And even at GCSE, it's horrible. But anyway, that's his choice. And sometimes it's, they're perhaps a necessary thing as they get a bit older. But what are your children passionate about? What really lights them up? What is it that puts the light on in their eyes? And what about you? What lights you up? What are you really passionate about? Do you know? Or have you kind of lost sight of it? As life's gone on. Put that in the comments if you've got anything to say about, passions that you see in your children, or passions you yourself know that are there. Perhaps they're latent, right? They just need waking up. Like I'm so enjoying learning Welsh. Like I love languages. See, languages light me up. And I've been dabbling with some watercolors lately, which has been really nice. I'm just going to have a proper look at Lois's comments while you think about that. Your passions, your kids' passions. Put some in the comments. What was Lois saying? Okay, she's talking about, there's Lois talking about her two boys relying on playing with each other. Yeah, they leave them, they start playing with each other, and they don't spend long enough on their own separate tasks. They're 7 and 8. Great that they're playing so nicely together, but it worries me that they're not developing their own. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me think about that one. My older two were very close in age like that, just a year apart. And my older three used to play together all the time. And actually, it was such a wonderful thing because I think their relationship is really strong. And particularly when our fourth son arrived, my eldest son was 10. And I think if he had been in school, he really having that time, even being part of him and part of his development was so valuable and developed so much, particularly in my eldest son. That's not something that comes so naturally to him. But having that relationship and that engagement with his younger siblings was really valuable. So sometimes I think even that we can undervalue, the way that they're, and what are they playing and how are they playing together, and what kinds of stories are they developing in their micro world of play. Perhaps you could put in the comments, Lois, what are the tasks that you're wanting them to be doing when they're playing? What are these things that you say they're not spending long enough on their own separate tasks? What are those? How important are those tasks to them? Or are those the things that you're thinking these more important? When my two were younger, the older two, I once dragged them away from something they were doing because I had in my mind that we needed to go to a particular drama workshop that I'd booked for them for home educated children, and it was with a drama teacher, and it sounded really fun, and I thought they'd like it. So I booked them, and we had to drive some way in the car to get there. We did the workshop, and they joined in, but they weren't overly enthusiastic. They just kind of went through the motions, and we drove home, and they couldn't wait to get back to their game. And their game was a drama. They were making a film. It was a spy film. One of them was filming and kind of directing it, and the neighbor was involved, and they were acting out. And it was really the same objective as that I'd just driven them over to this workshop to do. And that's why I think it's so important that we pay attention to our children's play, right? Because there's so much learning encompassed in that. And sometimes we're so busy looking at what we want them to do or what we think they need to do that we miss actually the value in what they are doing. And so by being really observant to their play, often we can pick out the things that they're doing and learning through that very naturally. And they're not developing their own interests as individuals. That's an interesting one too, because I felt that my second son, Joe, often looked to his older brother to lead. And Elias isn't at home anymore, isn't living at home at the moment. And we miss him. We miss his kind of energy and his passion and the way that he used to kind of lead us on different projects, and always had interesting things going on. And there was a while where Joe and Noah both were a little bit lost, like we had to kind of find a new rhythm and a new way of working without him in the mix. But they're still very young, 7 and 8, and Joe does have his own interests. And actually, now Elias is away, we're seeing them bubble up more and come more to the fore. So yeah, I'll perhaps think a bit more about that, Lois. Come back to it. What's everybody putting? Let's see. Passions here. Book art. Lois is saying guitar. Yeah, one of mine loves to play guitar. I want to know what they're good at, what they want individually to do. One distracts the other because they want to play, mate. I see. Okay. The other thing that was really beneficial when mine were younger was, and obviously with lockdown, it's all different, right? It's so difficult at the moment. It really is. Because, of course, being able to have time apart sometimes is really valuable as well. And I'm really fortunate. I've always had great support from my parents, who would love to take one boy off and have one-on-one with one grandson, which changed the dynamics at home, right? Whichever one it was that went, the dynamic was slightly changed. And that's quite good for them developing their own individual interests, and also, just going to different friends, and one perhaps being at home for a while. But obviously at the moment in lockdown, that is a real challenge, Lois, because we just can't do it. So I think, if you're looking in slightly longer term, I wouldn't over worry it, because, we'll come to the day where we can have play dates and things again and visit grandparents. Let's see what Nahum is saying. Today, my two 5 and 7 played together, building a dragon world with Lego Duplo. Amazing. And explained to me the evolution of dragons, the aerodynamics of their wings, how they suited different apps, how they related to each other. Yeah, brilliant. Dragons are a great topic as well. My Zephan, he drew dragons for weeks, endlessly. And that can take them in all sorts of directions as well, imaginary worlds, and that sounds amazing, learning. And look at the depth of it, right? The aerodynamics of the wings, and sometimes it's things that we wouldn't even think of. You know, like if we were doing a kind of lesson plan, we wouldn't even think of the things that our children come up with. We wouldn't think of the depth that they'll go to. We wouldn't extend them far enough. You know, constantly I'm amazed at how the boys' knowledge and interest surpasses my own and where they take things. You know, when we're not capping it, it's really amazing. Drawing, says Holly. Noah would draw all day. Yeah. Claire says, my eldest loves football and is learning all about nutrition at the moment. It's fascinating. Yeah. My youngest loves plants and is growing plants from seeds and cuttings. He loves reading and making computer games with strange creatures. Brilliant. That's so creative. Yeah, love it. Sport's been amazing for Noah, who's my sports fanatic. He's had a real passion for tennis for years, and it's taken him in all kinds of amazing directions. It's been really good for his learning mindset, which he then applies to all kinds of things, including now his GCSEs. Just that sense of perseverance and of belief in himself. But he's read loads of different autobiographies from different players. Andy Murray has been a great role model, brought us all kinds of learning, and even like looking at different players and where they come from. Like we had a very interesting conversation about the Bosnian conflict, which came from a comment that Novak Djokovic made about growing up in Serbia, with the kind of war going on in the background. Yeah, Lois says, looking at the geography of football with my son. Yes, you see? So it can just go in so many interesting directions, whatever their passion might be. So yeah, if we trust ourselves, right? If we trust ourselves and we trust our children, and we shape the learning at home around the things that really light us up and light them up, then it's a very interesting journey, right? Takes us to all kinds of interesting places. And we can kind of trust ourselves to follow those rabbit holes that emerge. I've always called it the emergent curriculum. You don't really plan it, you know, it just comes up and it just happens. And the more that you observe children learning in that way, and the more that you just see it happening before your eyes, the more you learn to trust it. And you follow these rabbit holes that they go down, and the different stories and people and journeys which matter to you and matter around the thing that you're interested in, that matter to your history and your family. And you find that you reconnect with yourself in a kind of deep way. You know, you kind of become rerouted somehow. There's a new sense of belonging, which I think for many of us in the modern world kind of gets lost. So it's a real journey. It's much bigger than just taking our kids' education out of the box. For me, it's involved reconnecting with the environment, the places that I came from, like where I grew up, my kind of family history and heritage. Yeah, it's so much more than what we initially think when we set out. See what you're all saying. Naomi says, my 7-year-old loves aerodynamics. In autumn, I was hoping we'd do some crafts with seeds, and he convinced me to explore the aerodynamics of seeds, with us building giant sycamore seeds and testing out different shapes to see how it changed the flight. Fantastic. What a great example. It's amazing. Emergent education. Yes, Polly, I love that. Claire says, I've really noticed how things come up later on and things start connecting. Yeah, that's right. And also, I think when we learn in this way, when we allow children to take the lead with their learning in this way, they build this incredible web of understanding. you know, things that they encounter naturally and at a moment when they're receptive to it just come up again later, and then they'll take them deeper and they'll attach them to another thing that they're learning about, and they build this incredible web of understanding and really deep knowledge. I know Julia Black was interviewing my son Elias recently, and he was talking about how growing up he felt sometimes he felt like he was kind of obsessive about things, but how this had actually stood him in good stead, how it was a good thing to have the time and space to be able to go really deep with the things that he was really passionate about. And sometimes we're a bit obsessed with having this kind of much more generalized education, which is, you know, everything but not at a very deep level. And he really valued being able to have the time and space to go deep with things. So yeah, it's fascinating to observe. Polly says, or was it emergent curriculum? Great way to describe it. Yeah, the emergent curriculum is what I talk about. Yeah. Although emergent education is equally, I like that actually. It's a great phrase. Yeah, the emergent curriculum, unplanned, it emerges as we go through life and through our days. So, you know, people say to me, but Alec, you know, don't you plan? And I say, no, I don't plan. I really don't. It emerges. And it's, you know, that is an exercise in trust, right? Because I'm trusting that it will. But over the years, the evidence presents itself. And I know lots of things do emerge. And we just have to trust that it will, and then just go with it. You know, we've had some very interesting discussions about politics in our house, watching the American elections and stuff, and there's so much that just is thrown up and you can go with it, and it's current, and therefore children are interested, and yeah, it's really important. So yeah, I'm so glad that some of you are experiencing that and seeing that happen in your own houses. My friend Songul is asking me to speak Turkish, but I can't do that just in the middle of this because I've got like a block. Songul. So you don't plan anything directly for their learning? No, I don't anymore. I used to, because when I started out, you know, it's hard, isn't it, just to jump right in. I've learned it along the way. I've learned to trust because the boys have shown me that it's okay to do that. We sometimes have discussions where we we'll make plans together, in the sense that I might say to Noah, hey, you know, what are you doing today? What you got on today? And he's the boy out of all my 4 boys, actually. He's the one who likes some kind of schedule. But he's very good at coming up with his own schedule. And sometimes I might say, oh, do you need to finish that thing that you were working on, or kind of like remind him, or that's as he's got older. He's nearly 15 now. But no, we do just trust in this emergent curriculum, which continually surprises me. And sometimes it'll be, you know, like we might be reading a book, and that might take us off in a different direction. We might be watching a documentary, or I've also talked always about kind of laying a feast out of different stimuli, you know, things that are interesting. I mean, in normal times we'd be out and about, right? So we might visit a museum and see something that's interesting, and so there's lots of different ways in which that learning emerges, but yeah, it's not me doing the planning. Just looking at the time, we're okay. I was thinking an hour is an hour is enough, isn't it, to sit and listen. Do let me know if you've got any other questions. The other thing I was going to talk about is just kind of, you know, building that sort of culture in your home, where, you know, so much of our culture currently, I think, is about consuming. We live in a very consumer culture, and so I've often talked about moving from consuming to creating, which is something that Julia Black talks about a lot, actually, as well. And I think, you know, it's play, isn't it? Play gives us that freedom, like that freedom of exploration to develop our creativity. And you know, nowadays in our house we often have quite a lot of projects on the go because we're used to working and operating in this way. You know, but when you're starting out, it might be that you're not quite at that stage yet, and you're more exploring different things and putting out a variety of different media and ideas for your children to explore. Somebody was saying, I'm looking back, it was Naomi was saying about having, you know, her two building a dragon world with Lego and Duplo. So in our house, we've got, you know, there's a lot of access to lots of different resources like that. The boys know where things are and what's around, so it's easy for them to dip in and, you know, like a kind of buffet, and pull out different things that kind of facilitate and enable creativity. And so you can kind of build that into your family culture. And I was talking to someone today about that and about culture, and how I know that people worry a lot that you know, there's a lot of wasted time, or what we might perceive as wasted time. And I'm thinking of that analogy with the jar, where you've got rocks and then you've got pebbles and then you've got sand, and actually they all fit in the jar. But if you don't put the rocks in first and the pebbles, then the sand just fills up the jar and you can't then get the rocks in, right? So the rocks are the things that are really important to you. And I can't tell you what those rocks are, right? Because they'll be the things that are important to you in your family, in your situation, and your children. For somebody, they might be, you know, getting outside every day. That's a rock, absolutely has to happen for my own sanity. Or it might be, you know, I like to read aloud to the kids over lunch. That's a real rock, that's going in. Or it might be, I don't know, Skyping grandma or whatever it is. You know, they're like the key core values that you want to make sure are in your jar. So get those in, you know, that's, and do you know what, even if you just do that, then you feel so much better about the day, right? Because you're thinking, okay, I've got that done, I'm happy. Or maybe it's, you know, everybody cooking dinner together, sitting down and eating together, whatever. So, you know, get the rocks in, then the pebbles are maybe the things that you'd like in there that are not quite so important, but you would like to get those in. And then if the sand trickles in, you know, maybe the sand is like gaming, right? And the sand trickles in. But if you've got those rocks in place and the pebbles, it doesn't really bother you in the same way, you see, rather than the sand just getting in there and seeming to a learning environment. You're creating that kind. I'm flickering on my screen. I'm hoping that you can see me and I haven't cut out. Okay, let me just look at a few of your comments to finish up. Polly says, my kids never stop creating. I love seeing it. That's great. Holly, obviously, let's click that up. It's not clicking up now. That's weird. Obviously, your boys are older now. How do you cope when they're very focused on or obsessed with something you aren't that keen? For example, Pokemon. My Zephyr loves Pokemon at the moment. He's really funny. But Holly, even in that interest, I'm seeing so much potential because he likes Pokemon, and he actually draws. He loves drawing, does Zephyr. It's one of his real key switches, and he spends a lot of time. So he'll draw Pokemon, and then he started to design his own Pokemon. Oh, I'm back. Did I disappear there for a minute? Tell me if I'm back and you can still see me. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm back. Okay, super. Thank you, Holly. Hooray. Thank you. I don't know what happened there. Sorry, guys. Drawing Pokemon, yes. So, and he's been drawing his own Pokemon characters, but more excitingly, he has started to create and animate his own Pokemon creatures that move. And with the addition recently of a green screen, he can actually put his Pokemon into the house. I don't know if you've seen the Pokemon thing where you can put the real Pokemon into your house. So he can then do that with his own characters using a green screen. So there's so much creative possibility, right? Even in an interest which we might deem to be, you know, not so, I don't know, how do we rate it? What did Holly say? What were your words? You aren't that keen on something you aren't that keen on, like Pokemon. There's always creative possibilities, honestly, right? So it's the same. If it was dragons, Holly, would you have the same kind of feeling like, oh, it's not so good? And you know, the games industry is such a huge industry now in the UK in terms of when we're looking ahead to future job possibilities and digital skills. And I think it's Peter Gray who says that, you know, children want to be proficient with the tools of our culture. And so digital skills, you know, are so vital now. Going forward. So yeah, I'd really encourage you not to dismiss an interest just because it's not something that's of real interest to you, but to try to really see what your child's interest is in it, and maybe to just talk with them, engage with them, draw out from them what they're doing. There's always possibilities for these interests to open up deep learning. Glue guns today, says Polly. Sounds fun. I'm full of questions and intrigue, says Naomi. I missed the very beginning. How did you get the husband and grandparents on board? That's a good question. My husband is a teacher, has been for over 20 years, and he has been very much on board with unschooling from the start. And in fact, it's been amazing at times when he has been in school and he's come home and I've been having one of my days of, I don't feel like we've done very much at all. And he would always reassure me about the time he had spent in school just managing behavior. And actually he would always say, you know, even if you get like short windows of real quality time, it's so valuable compared with the time actually spent learning in school. So he was kind of easy to he's just been in it right from the start. In fact, he was an encourager. My parents were, took them longer to come around to the idea because my mum was a teacher her whole career. And I think it was just difficult for her to envisage doing it differently. And I understand, you know, people's anxiety for their own grandchildren, you know, what you're doing. But they've become huge converts to organic education. And I think for their perspective, it's certainly given them closer relationship with our boys. They've had opportunity to spend really good quality time with them as they've grown up, more than I think they would have had they been in school. And it's been great to involve them with the expertise that they have to share with the boys. My dad's amazing on history. And when we've been able to go out on historic visits, and he will just share his love of history with the boys through stories. And they just have amazing historical knowledge where they've woven that web that I talked about, that web of understanding through spending time with their grandpa. And my mum's amazing on art and French, and they've been able to, you know, impart their own passions to their grandchildren, which has been really valuable. We don't see so much of my husband's parents. I think they found it quite difficult to understand what we're doing. But in more recent years, I think they've been a bit more on board with it. But we don't see as much of them, so it's different because of where we live. So yeah, and sometimes it can be difficult to trust our gut and go with this kind of approach when we don't have the support of people close to us. I think if you do have a partner in the mix, if you're able to get them on board with it, it's really, really helpful and valuable. Show them my TED Talk. And, you know, there's lots of other people who speak about this kind of different paradigm in education. Julia Black's got a video series out at the moment, a free video series, which I've been talking about on my page, which is great to watch. People like Ken Robinson, you know, to try and inspire a different way of thinking. I'm I'm aware that I've been talking at you for an hour, so that might be long enough. I will begin to wrap things up. Lydia says, would I mind sharing a typical day? Ooh, do you know, Lydia, that's really, really hard to do because they are all so different. I mean, at the moment, it's a bit like Groundhog Day, to be fair, but usually our home ed days are really, really different. Usually let's talk about non-lockdown times, right? But usually our time is structured around we've got more of a kind of weekly structure around activities that we have through the week. And then our days will kind of just flow. We do have, sometimes the boys will put a kind of list on the fridge with things that they're working on currently or things that they might like to do in the week. So that if we do have a moment where we're like, what should we do? Or they're not sure what to do, they can go back and refer to that list. But it really does just kind of flow. I might write something about that on my page. That might give you a better answer to your question. Lois is asking, what books are you reading? Zephyr at the moment, who's 8, we're reading Artemis Fowl. That's a new one to him. He's also loving The Wizards of Once at the moment, which are Cressida Cowell's new series, because he loved How to Train Your Dragon. So we're on, I think it's the new one is the 4th Wizards of Once. And he's also at the moment a huge fan of The Phoenix, which is a weekly comic. And that then is stimulating his drawing and digital drawing and so on. Seeing if there's any more questions. Okay, yeah, so let me wrap up. What was I going to say? So to finish, really, I was just going to say, don't feel like you have to know everything. You don't have to be this teacher who's imparting knowledge, right? It's more about seeing yourself alongside your children. So you're facilitating, you're learning together. If you don't know things, well, you can find them out together. And I think being a fellow learner is very powerful for our children to see that and to see you as a learner as well. I said in my TED talk, it's like lifting our children up onto our shoulders so that they can see further than we can. So yeah, it's easy, isn't it, as a parent to project our own fear or our own worries about what we should be doing, what they should be doing, our own kind of anxiety and negativity into our household and onto our children. And quite often then, if we're doing that, we get that sort of mirrored back at us. So, just it's about engaging. Rather, it's about engaging with your children, showing interest, letting go of those old school thoughts, which kind of hold us captive to these old school ways of doing things. Really, it's about, really envisaging a 21st century education. We're 21st century learners, and our children are digital natives. And another quote from Peter Gray, who I like his work very much. If you haven't looked him up, look him up. He says something along the lines of, we now have all the knowledge in the world in our pocket. And I think that's quite a powerful thing to think about, because we all can, if we want knowledge, or we can look it up, right? We can look it up, our children can look it up. And again, that brings us back to the idea of the tools of our culture, the digital tools of our culture, which our children can become proficient at using. Don't be afraid, trust yourself, trust your children. It's all about trust the process. Right, I'm going to wrap it up. Rachel, don't worry, it's going to be on my page, because these videos stay on my page, so you can watch it back. Nice to see you. Thank you all for joining me. It's lovely to see you all, and thanks for taking part in the chat and stuff. I'm going to be doing these monthly, so the next 4th Friday in February, I'll be back. I might have my husband come and do one about maths, because a lot of us have a lot of anxiety around maths, and he's very good at talking about building mathematical thinking. But if you've got other ideas of things you would like to hear more about particularly, then do put them on my page and I will look. And it's really nice to just be able to encourage you all. I am going to be here on Monday doing a live with Julia Black from Lights On, about passion-led learning. So I'll be talking more about facilitating my kids' learning through their particular passions. So, you know, do hop back on and check that out on Monday. If you can't join us live, I think it'll probably be in the middle of the day. Then yeah, you can catch it on a playback. All right, so that would be cool. But yeah, really good to see you all. Take care and see you again soon.